Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is Ash Wednesday, March 1st, 2017. I am Kim Brown, and this is Advancement Live. On today's live broadcast, we're chuckling because about 30 seconds prior to going live, my ladies from Holy Cross just disappeared off the screen. But they are back now, and they are ready to talk about how Holy Cross broke a 24-hour giving record. They are just in recovery mode from their 24-hour giving day, which was on Valentine's Day this year. It was the I Love HC campaign, and they had 6,100 plus participants with a goal of 4,000. So that's pretty awesome, raising about $1.64 million for Holy Cross. So today is all about that, and really the decision to tie a giving day to a holiday. Was that a good choice? Was that a poor choice? We're going to get into some of that as well, and maybe even brainstorm other holidays where a giving day might be a successful choice. As many of you know who have watched before, Advancement Live is part of the Higher Ed Live network. Our episodes offer you access to the best and brightest minds in higher education. And you can be part of this live broadcast by sharing your knowledge. So I'm really anxious to hear from those of you who have run giving days, who have tied them to holidays before, who have questions for our Holy Cross team. And you can use the hashtag HigherEdLive to ask those questions. All our episodes are free. They're easy to access in the video archives at higheredlive.com. Or you can take Higher Ed Live with you on the go, and who would not want to do that? Listen to a podcast of our Higher Ed Live episodes. It is produced by M. Stoner, a digital-first agency committed to tailored solutions that drive real results. So now that that spiel's out of the way, I want to introduce you to two fabulous ladies from Holy Cross. We have Carrie Saucier today, as well as Greta Morgan. Carrie is the Director of Campaign Management and Advancement Operations at the College of the Holy Cross. And Greta is about 2 months into her new role as Director of Development at the College of the Holy Cross. So ladies, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. And we've got awesome, your sign right behind you. It's all set up. We're ready to chat. I Love HC.
Perfect.
So, Carrie, you are about 2.5 years or so into your role at Holy Cross, which means that this was the second giving day that you did. When did the planning start for I Love HC?
So in some ways, immediately after the last challenge we had last February, but we really started meeting in October. Okay. And so we met every other week for a while, and then we started meeting weekly in January.
And how did you get to this I Love HC campaign? Being in the midst of planning our first Giving Day campaign now, what's our theme? What are we going with? And I know, Greta, you probably came in too late in the process. The plan was already, you were like, okay, great, I'll run with it, right?
It was great. We went with it.
Yeah, we have a really great communications team in our advancement department, and they really branded this and came up with it. It was based on a successful campaign that they had done in April of 2012 called I Love HC. That wasn't a 1 day of giving. It was just I think a month-long challenge. But it was really successful then. So they kind of borrowed on that theme and tried it again.
Awesome. So you did it. It was a goal of, I guess, kind of take me through, the goal setting, where you hope to be and then where you ended up.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I can chime in here. I know that the last time we did a online challenge was a year ago, and it was a 43-hour challenge over our homecoming weekend, and we had a little over 6,000 individuals who gave back during that period of time. This year, because it was a truncated campaign, a 24-hour campaign, we really weren't sure where to put ourselves. So we looked at the timeline of gifts that came in for the first 24 hours of last year's campaign, and we were at about 3,500 within that time period. So we chose the goal of 4,000, hoping that we could get to there in the 24-hour period.
So, Carrie, I saw you were the face of it on the Give Campus website. Well, first, kind of take me through your decision to go with the platform that you used was Give Campus. Mm-hmm. Was that decided by your team? Was that, I guess, let's talk through that process, because that's such a big question for schools running a giving campaign, is how are we going to do it, and how are we going to do it in a way that's easy for our donors to be part of this effort?
Yeah, so that was the key. It was ease of donations, and our current online giving form both doesn't have the social media integration or the ease of the Give Campus platform. So a year ago, when we were looking at a giving challenge, we knew that we needed to have some other piece of technology in order to do that. So we chose Give Campus at that point because it was easy to give. The social media sharing and the advocacy really makes it easy for our donors to get excited about being involved and track their success at getting other donors. So yeah, we started our conversation with Give Campus, I guess 2 years ago in October. And then we made our final decisions in December, and it was a really easy site to use. So we were up and running for our February challenge.
And what was the, I guess maybe Greta, you can speak to this. How important was that peer-to-peer, I guess in general, not just for this particular campaign, but in general, especially on a day, the Valentine's Day, the love theme, right? How important was that advocates feature?
The advocacy feature really was one of the most important features that we saw. We saw it the last time we did the Give Campus campaign, and we saw it this time as well. We had about 249 advocates during the day, which is huge. We actually broke the Give Campus record for the day. Their record before that was 230 advocates for the day. We had 249, and it's 20% of our online dollars and 21% of all online donors came directly through that peer-to-peer solicitation, through the advocacy. So it was huge. It's absolutely huge. And the Holy Cross Network, alumni network, has always been tremendous. It's why we are at over 50% participation. It's our network of alumni that go out and do the work for us. We have huge advocates within our class agent, our class chair pool. I mean, they're just amazing.
So do you think this is something, Carrie, that will live on the Valentine's theme, or do you think it's like, oh, it worked this year? That's the thing with, I just came off a case conference and it was like, we've done Giving Day. So
right,
how do you do the next one and the next one and the next one?
Yeah, we take it one at a time. We toyed around with the idea of doing this as a Groundhog Day. We thought that would be funny. But so Valentine's Day worked this year. My guess if we were to do it again next year, we'd use a different theme, but it's we'll wait and see.
In the planning process for this, and this is something that's always a key theme in planning a Giving Day, who would you say were your top 3 campus partners? Like who were we really need you guys on board in order for this to work?
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, definitely communications. So we have college-wide communications, and then we also have communication staff within our office. And they worked really closely together to come up with a plan related to social media and emailing and many, many other things on campus and off campus. So they were the most important partner. And then we also worked really closely with athletics because our Giving Day originated as a athletics challenge a number of years ago. And so we took it over last year and we coordinated with them. So they're key partners. And in fact, student athletes there were seniors who gave 100% participation to our campaign during the day. So they were a big part of it too. Yeah. We also had partnerships with the dining services and staff. So on that day, we had all types of things going on campus for students. So they all wore our pink t-shirts and they served we had a midnight breakfast the night before for students where we served, I think, pink.
There were heart-shaped bagels that were pink.
Yeah.
There was so much that happened on campus that day, and our dining services crew was amazing.
And what was the breakdown? Do you have the student donors versus those outside? I'm sure you have your numbers. And
one of the statistics that I've been putting out there is that out of the top 5 classes in terms of the number of donors, out of the top 5 of them, 4 of them were on campus. So that was our seniors, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen classes that were giving back at an amazing rate. And then there was another class that was up there in the top 5, was the class of 2003. So our on-campus efforts were huge to engage our on campus population, the students that are going to be alumni someday. It was a big focus of what we did, and we really wanted to make sure that they heard the message loud and clear, that there's others across the community that are giving back. The alumni network is giving back, and you soon will be a part of that alumni community. And this is a very important point of pride for us as a campus to have 50% participation, and it's really important.
What do you think enticed students to give? Did they get something if they made their gift? Was it no?
We really do not and try to entice them. It's all about the gift. It's all about philanthropy, about giving back from their freshman year through their senior year. And it's a culture of philanthropy on this campus that is beyond what I can express or understand. Still trying to understand.
You're making a lot of schools jealous right now.
I'm sorry. Come work with us, folks.
Yeah. One of the challenges we're all facing is the growing alumni data, base that we have, and the fact that we need to continue to, at least at Holy Cross, our goal is to always remain at 50% or above participation rate. So every year that we have another graduating class, we have to figure out a way to engage them. So last year was the first year that we really focused on a senior class gift. And this year we focused again. So during the challenge, that senior class almost reached 50% participation. So we're in good shape going forward.
That's phenomenal. I just want to remind folks who are watching, we have several watching. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I just want to remind folks that if you do have questions, just tweet them using the hashtag HigherEdLive, or if you have anything to add to our conversation this afternoon, because that really it's great to hear from others and to be able to ask your questions of Carrie and Greta as well. So Carrie, we've talked a lot about the front end and what that experience was, but your world is back end, right? You're very much the operations side. And I know that that's a concern. Honestly, we are an iModule school. I know you are thinking about using a platform that's not going to be iModules to take our gifts. What was that back end experience like, and how would you convince someone in your role that it's gonna be okay?
Yeah, it was so much easier than your fears. Give Campus is pretty straightforward. You can grab a list of donors with all types of information related to them throughout the day at any point, and then also the next day. We this year, for the first time, it was a little more challenging. We pulled data back throughout the day to bring into our database so that we could get a sense of where we were with some internal goals we had, because we did set internal goals for the senior class gift, for parents, for Libunts, Sibunts, new donors. And the only way that we would know whether we were meeting those goals throughout the course of the 24 hours was to bring the data back and then do a reconciliation with our database. But we didn't do that the first year. We kept it really simple. We just allowed all the donations to happen, and then we brought the data back over the next day, and we spent 2 or 3 days getting those gifts into our system. We have advanced web, and we have a really great IT team that has worked on coding so that we can easily match based on email and other things. So most of that is, we didn't enter these gifts by hand. They were loaded once we identified who the donors were.
And would that be your best practices? Like, what would you say in terms of really having a good process in place?
Yeah, I think that's the best practice. We have good contact information on our alums, so it's pretty easy for us to identify them. And for that reason, it was really easy to bring them back over and to load them. We've talked with Give Campus, and they're always working on responding to customers' needs. And so they're talking about a way to integrate more closely with the database so that it's a little bit easier on the days of or the day after to have those internal goals tracked. But yeah, it was very, very easy to use. In terms of setting up the campaign, it's simple and straightforward. In terms of getting data out, simple and straightforward. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good. I want to ask you, Greta, as the director of development, really watching all of this play out, what were some of your key observations or things that you might share with your peers, those who do lead development operations, those who kind of overseeing the worker bees, if you will? What were some of the things you took away from the day, or some advice, life lessons you might give?
Absolutely. I would highly recommend the amount of work, or just talk about the amount of work that we did before this challenge. This doesn't come off in a very easy way. There were a lot of people that were involved in this challenge to make it successful, and they worked very long hours from, the end of the last challenge, but really beginning in October in earnest, creating a brand and an identity, and rolling that out, and then a whole communications plan around it, and then engaging our alumni network. This doesn't happen overnight. So there's a lot of work on the front end that happens for that in the beginning of this. Then on the day of, I would highly recommend having almost like a command central operation. Yeah. We camped out in a conference room, and we pulled all of everyone into the room, key players into the room every 2 hours throughout the challenge. Our operations team was amazing. We had key times during the day that we really wanted to have a look at the data so we can kind of tweak and retweak where we're going. We had an amazing plan, but we were also really nimble about being able to tweak when needed. And moving things forward. When we saw at one point that our new donor category was kind of lagging during the day, we decided to do a few things differently and reach out to some of our alumni network to really kind of push that forward. So we had the opportunity to kind of tweak the plan as we went. When we realized at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon that we were going to go right through the 4,000 donor mark, we pulled everybody into the room and we said, now what's next? And on the fly, we created a new video with our president saying, let's go to 5,000. And within that video that we were creating, we also had a plan of what happens if we go beyond 5,000. We needed a different video. We had only planned 4 videos for the day. We actually, I don't know if people are aware, but we actually thanked our 1,000th donor, our 2,000th donor, our 3,000th donor, and our 4,000th donor. Those were the 4 videos that we planned for the day. And then we had a thank you video, and we had a teaser video and another video to open the challenge. So we had several videos that we had in place, but we didn't go past the 5,000 mark. So we did one on the fly, and to be nimble and to be able to pull that together that day, it was just the cross communication between the entire team was really helpful, and having the opportunity to come together in one room was critical.
Were the videos deployed on email, or were they?
They were the thank you for the 1,000th donor to the 4,000th donor were deployed via email, and then to each of those individuals. It was intended to be a thank you to that individual, and then we deployed them via email to the entire alumni community during points during the day. I think we sent out one at noon with those two videos saying we had reached X number of donors at that point, and we included the 2 videos, and then we did a similar thing later in the afternoon to the entire alumni community.
Can you talk through the new donors? Because that, for a lot of schools doing a giving day for the first time, it's not dollars, it's absolutely donors. And all of us are really focused on new donors. What were some of the strategies when you saw that new donors were lagging? Not to give away too many trade secrets, but the cool thing about higher ed is that none of us are competitors.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
We had a couple of challenges in particular classes to attract new donors. So what we did was try to engage those classes, those class chairs, to see if they could engage new donors. And we tried to be able to, them having the ability to know which donors had come in during the day and what donors they should go after was really critical. We didn't beat our record for new donors and acquisition donors, unfortunately, for that day. That was one of the only areas that we didn't come through where we wanted to come through. And we're still analyzing why that happened. The reality is that I think the faithful donors of your community and of the Holy Cross community came out in force that day to help us get to that record. It wasn't the new donors. So we're looking at the end of year as an area where maybe we can make a difference there.
In the platform that you used, and I know a lot of schools will get caught up in when we do a giving day, we have to make sure that people can choose the 73 funds that we have, that they have to have options, that everybody needs to be able to choose their fund. What I believe to be the beauty of a platform like Give Campus is that it's just one option. Is that correct? Like no, it's not. I'm wrong.
So Give Campus would love that because they've done a lot of studies and they understand best practice and what really works, because they have, I think, over 100 clients now. So they want us to keep that form as simple as possible. But because our challenge grew out of an athletics challenge, where it was teams competing against teams, we had to list every single athletic designation. But one of the things we worked through with Give Campus was how to do that in a way that would be streamlined. You could split gifts, but only 50-50. So and all of these things make for less friction for the donor when they're online, and then allows for the gifts to be more successful in terms of conversion rates. So we actually had quite a few designations listed, but we found ways to minimize other things we were asking for on the forms so that it wouldn't slow everything down.
Perfect. I guess that's but it is just the one click to give, and then they choose their.
Yeah. And, most people gave to the annual fund or didn't choose a designation. So that's just important to know. But it was important for us to have those, especially the athletic ones there. And frankly, we this year added faith and service, which is a huge part of our community here at Holy Cross. So we tried to represent all of the main areas of Holy Cross on that form. But again, we tried to keep it really simple because that's the most important thing when you're trying to convert donors quickly.
As you think back 2 weeks postmortem,
yeah.
Are there any, lessons learned, things that you wish had gone differently? I guess Carrie, will start with you and then move over to Greta. Anything that for schools, because some really are about to do their first giving challenge, or they've had a really unsuccessful one and they're trying really hard to do a successful one.
Yeah.
You've done it. So what are some of those key takeaways?
Well, what we would have done differently, we really wish we had the ability to make student giving easier. So with the use of Venmo or PayPal or something, so that students didn't have to have cash or didn't have to go in and make their gift online. A lot of them, there was a whole group of them that just wanted to use Venmo. And we did explore that ahead of time, but chose not to move ahead with that. So that's something we'll consider for next year, is just making it easier for students to give, even though they gave, at record rates. Otherwise, a big takeaway, I think, is just the importance of collaboration within the advancement office. Like Greta said, we had a command central, and in that room was a number of people. It wasn't, it was communications, it was annual fund, it was athletic giving, it was operations, marketing and communications, obviously. So it was really a collaborative effort, and that was helpful. And then the ability to just plan ahead a lot, but also know that you might need to shift plans throughout the day. So it's really important to be nimble, and I think that that's a huge takeaway from our first giving day. And this year, we even, through the help of marketing communications, were able to really hone in on the best way to use social media and not overuse it. So one of the things that we learned was that if on Facebook, you should really only have one post instead of a bunch of posts, and then keep updating that post, and that's how you engage more people.
Right.
So those types of takeaways were really critical for us.
The Facebook algorithm and trying to deal with that.
Yeah, I would definitely make sure that you have individuals that understand social media and how it works. We were utilizing Instagram. We had students on campus who were utilizing Instagram for us, doing kind of live shots. I'm not even sure I'm saying it correctly. But, they were doing a lot of that during the midnight breakfast all the way through pub night the next night. So having somebody who understands social media and how to utilize it and utilize it to its best advantage is really key and critical. The volunteers, your alumni volunteers, are absolutely critical to the success of a campaign like this. You've got 24 hours and you've got to hit the ground running. So having an engaged alumni network is key and critical, and talking to them beforehand. We had some meetings on campus a few weeks before with our trustees, and they were absolutely engaged in this effort and wanted to know as the day went on how we were doing, because they were so well informed and engaged. The other piece I was going to say is the on-campus efforts. I would imagine some campuses might not spend a lot of time and energy on the on-campus efforts, and I would actually highly suggest that they do. It's an opportunity to engage your future alumni, and there was so much activity on campus that day. I had a great time. It was really a fun time. The students had a fun time. We had pink T-shirts that we gave out to volunteers throughout the day. Campus volunteers, student volunteers, and dining workers. Everybody on campus was wearing a pink T-shirt in honor of this, with the I Heart HC emblem and logo, and everybody was thoroughly engaged and excited about this. And our numbers showed that we did a great job on campus with that group. The young alumni are giving back through online giving and through campus days like this, or giving days like this. It's a whole crew that's giving back in this way. So the younger alumni are absolutely.
Oh, good. My phone's ringing. That's perfect. Take that off. All right. Would you say that it was easy to keep momentum going for 24 hours, or was there a time when it was like, oh my gosh, will this ever stop?
I will say I have, we had a spreadsheet going in the Command Central office that went, from 10 to midnight, 10 a.m. to midnight. We were keeping track hour by hour what was happening. And we suspected in advance that the hour between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. was going to be kind of a lag time. And it really, really was. Those 2 hours dragged on forever. And the numbers showed that it was at 4 o'clock Eastern time, we had 3,812 donors. And then at 6 o'clock that night, we had only gained another 600 donors. We were at 4,438. Whereas, the 2 hour period between, in other timeframes, we had gained 1,000 donors or, 1,500 donors in 2 hour periods. So we were really slow at that period of time, but we suspected it. On the East Coast, that's the end of the workday. We hoped that the West Coast might pick up around that time. So we actually did some targeted marketing to West Coast through social media. We had a great social media person who was helping us do some target marketing through Facebook and Twitter feeds in that way. So we hoped that the West Coast might pick up. After 6 o'clock, we picked up again. So there were definitely, we were all in Command Central, and we were all losing steam as well. We had been on campus for a very long period of time. But that definitely was a slow period of time for us.
Did you do anything with, I know a lot of schools, when we were one of them, celebrated our alumni couples on Valentine's Day. Was there anything related to the couples who met at Holy Cross as part of this Giving Day?
There wasn't. We played with that idea.
We actually did. We sent out.
Oh, did you send something?
We did.
Out?
We actually sent out a postcard about a week ahead of time to alumni who were married. So it was Holy Cross alums, and it was something, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was, we call it Mount St. James here and on the hill. So it said, had alluding to, you met on the hill and you're in love and happy Valentine's Day. So kind of, marking the day and letting them know that we were celebrating with them. But there really wasn't a call to action on that postcard, as I recall. So it wasn't intended to be a solicitation of any sorts. We were just celebrating the day with them, hoping that the other pieces of the marketing that we were doing in advance would come through. Our social media experts were putting out the week beforehand, what do you love about Holy Cross? There was a snow day probably about a week and a half before this campaign went live, and they put up what do you love about snow days on Holy Cross? What do you remember? And the alumni body was engaging through social media with us about what they loved about this campus. So there was a lot of themes that we were utilizing in social media prior to the day and communicating out. And the iHeartHC through the Valentine's Day for our Holy Cross couples was certainly utilized.
Did you do any other mail pieces specifically about the Giving Day coming, or did you stick to all of your marketing being digital?
We did a lot of digital. I don't think we sent out anything else via print to the alumni body. We did a lot of emails through class agents and class letters that we were sending out prior to the day, but nothing really via print.
I've seen some schools who go ahead, Carrie.
I was just going to say, the first year we did our challenge, we kept it quiet until the week before, and we dropped all these little hints. This year, we were more comfortable starting to talk about it a little bit sooner.
Right.
And so, both worked.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that some schools, they like to, something big is coming, something's happening.
Right. It was fun.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was fun to build it up the first year. And yet this year we started a little bit earlier, and that worked as well. So I think both work. A lot of it has to do with just a really thoughtful communications plan, I think.
Were you able to do you ask for comments when people are making their gifts? Was that?
No, in part because of this whole idea that it's supposed to be a very streamlined and easy experience for them. So you don't want to ask for things ahead, as part of that giving experience. I know Give Campus is moving to a different giving form pretty soon. And that will allow you to accept the gift up front with just a couple questions. And then after the gift is accepted, ask more questions of the donor. And if they do move to that soon, I'm sure we would utilize it if we did another Giving Day with them.
The one thing with giving days, and I want to move to, okay, you've got now 6,100 people who have come up and said, yes, like I love Holy Cross, I'm going to make my gift. How do you steward those donors now? Like and that's probably a question for you, Greta, like what's the making them continue to love Holy Cross so that next year, if it's not that theme, it's a different theme, they're still anxious to participate?
Exactly. It's a great question. We are sending out small little stickers that have the Holy Cross logo on it to all of the individuals that have given through this. We've also talked and thanked our challenge donors and our advocates and online or on-campus individuals. We've sent out thank you notes. We had an iHeart HC baseball cap that was created for some of our challengers. Keeping them engaged and enthusiastic about this it's a day-to-day job for us. It's all about getting them engaged and enthusiastic about their alma mater. It's something that we do on a daily basis. We are taking a really close look at the data because there are some individuals who gave that day and gave what we might call a token gift, and they might be in a reunion year. So we need to be very careful about making sure that we're going back to them for their reunion gift and being mindful of that. Well, this is a great participation effort for us, and we get the participation numbers up, and we get a great amount of people who give back for this one day.
Right.
The reality is that there's dollars that need to be raised, and a lot more dollars that need to be raised for our annual fund. So we need to be closely minding that, and we are looking at that.
We've talked about, sending the emails, doing the social media. Did you also have the calling component to this day? Was your
We did have a phone-a-thon.
Okay.
We called it a celebrity phone-a-thon, so we invited alumni back to campus who were in the area who wanted to do it, or others, staff or faculty. It wasn't as successful as we would have hoped. We really find that it's much more successful to engage people online.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a small component of that. In the days leading up to it, the year before, we did a data acquisition phone-a-thon that was very successful. And it's also worth noting that we asked for phone number on the giving form, which you have to be really thoughtful about what you're adding. But we added it the first year, and we were very, very successful in getting new phone numbers for the phone-a-thon. And then that happened again this year, and I think the number is over 400 to 500 new cell phone numbers that we were able to collect.
Wow.
Yeah, and I will say
itself is a win.
Exactly.
A huge win. Yeah.
And on the day of, we had somebody who was designated to sit at the phone in our Holy Cross Fund offices, and she took a several amount of calls that day. You do have an alumni population that is can be older, and are not interested in online, but they heard about what was happening. They received emails from their classmates, and they called us frequently, and so we had somebody designated to answer the phone for the day, and she stayed actually probably till 7 or 8 o'clock that evening, answering the phone. We actually had a couple people called early the day before. One individual who was going into surgery the next day and wanted to give before he went in for surgery. So we accepted that gift and put it in the next day.
But it's important to note this challenge for us was really as close to a true 24-hour challenge as it could be. Even though Give Campus allows you to load gifts on the back end, we really we didn't, if gifts came that day in any other form that were not clearly for the challenge, we didn't count them in the challenge. We waited. And while we started with a midnight breakfast that started at 10:30 with students, those were the only gifts that came in before midnight. And it was just the student gifts. So it really was a clean 24-hour challenge for us. And so that makes it even more exciting.
So as you look ahead to the future, would you tie it to a holiday movie? You mentioned Groundhog Day. I'm intrigued. Is that something that was like a key component to this, or yeah, it worked, we'll see? I know you said take them one day at a time.
Yeah, I would say before you think about a holiday or a particular day, I think about a period of time in your calendar that's a lag time. In February, March, January are kind of slower times. March, maybe not so much because you have NCAA March Madness during that time. But there's, February is a slow time, and our last challenge was during February, and it worked out really well. And I think individuals, especially who are living in the Northeast, are looking for something fun to do in the doldrums of the winter months of February. So I would definitely consider February again. Whether or not it's tied to a holiday is certainly of intrigue. This particular holiday worked for us. We chose it, and then our marketing communications team went with the theme and did a great job of getting a great logo and taglines. One of my favorite taglines was "Break records, not hearts." And
that's good.
We utilized that with fanfare. So we were able to kind of just run with the theme. So if you pick a holiday or even a time of year, go with the theme and see what it does.
I would just add that the other importance of February for us is that one of our key goals in both of these challenges is to move our donors forward. We get more than half of our donors in the month of June, which is a huge amount of donors. So we really wanted to move those gifts forward. So the decision to do it in February the first time around had to do with both with it being a good time of year and with this desire to try to get those June donors to give sooner. And it did work out. Quite a few of them did. It helped again this year. But yeah, it's nice to not have to be biting our nails in June to see if we're going to make our participation rate.
And I assume you had a toolkit, marketing communications probably put together for all. If you're like us, you have like 9,000 Twitter accounts related to Holy Cross. And
yeah,
is that part of the plan?
Absolutely. There was a toolkit that was shared, and really importantly, volunteers were trained ahead of time. Give Campus is a great partner in that way. They have their own toolkit that they provide that we can then use to very easily put our branding in it and then train people on how to at least use Give Campus. But we also had a toolkit for marketing communications that included all of the branding and everything for the day.
Yeah, it had little, ping files that you could upload into your Facebook account, your Twitter account, all those things. The I Heart HC, I Gave sticker was on there. We had so many opportunities for people to utilize this toolkit through social media, which was great. And they used it. We saw it, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram light up throughout the day. So they were definitely utilizing it.
And Give Campus is a really easy platform for our volunteers to understand and use as advocates. And yet we still train them on it every year just to make sure they're really clear about how to do it. And a lot of them participate in those trainings. We do the trainings remotely. They call in and we do it that way. And Give Campus is part of that with us. They're willing to walk people through how to do it. So that's a really successful way to engage volunteers ahead of time to ensure that they'll actually show up on the day of. And our volunteers are incredibly competitive, so we always put goals out for them, and that they really respond to that. So many of the class chairs and the people who are volunteering for classes had their own goals for their class and what they wanted to see, and we encouraged that.
So when you say volunteers, you're talking your class committees, do you have alumni clubs with Holy Cross?
We have alumni clubs, but this is primarily the class. This is the volunteers for the classes. We have over 2,000 very, very active volunteers and significantly more than that who help fundraise for the classes.
Oh, that's great.
And so they were the ones who we were reaching out to as partners. And we asked them to get on early, that we understand that the importance of success in a giving day happens early. So you really want to be, you don't want people to wake up and see 10 gifts. They want to wake up and see quite a few gifts. And so we understood we needed to get to a certain percentage by 10 or 11 that morning. And our volunteers were key in helping us get there because we let them know that was important.
It may be too early to have done this analysis. If you look at folks who gave last year and then this giving day, have you done that side by side yet?
We have, but we just produced the documents like as of Friday, and we haven't had a chance to look at them all. But we did spend a week doing data analysis. And, that's an important note here is you do the challenge and it goes great. And then what? And so we'll do a postmortem. We have the operations area does one. The giving side, so the annual fund will do one, communications will do one, and then we'll all come together and talk about how it went, how we can improve it for the next year, what our takeaways are. And so, yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of post challenge analysis that we do, and it's exciting. We have so much information to look at and see if we can't figure out some trends.
It's amazing that like 3 years ago, giving days weren't a thing. Like nobody did this, and all of a sudden it's like every conference is about running a giving day. We're doing episodes about it. What's the sweet sauce? How do you pick your day? How do you pick your donor numbers? Things like that. So it's just amazing to see how far we've come with this. And I wouldn't even call it a trend. Like I think this one's sticking around for a long time.
Yeah, I think one of the key components of this is that most of our young alum are giving online now. I was at a conference last week for Give Campus, and they were saying that, your $1 million donors in the next 5 years made their first online gift in this last 5 years. And so those are the people we're trying to engage right now, because we know that young alumni are engaged online. And we've been really successful. Our challenge is, this particular challenge, over 60% of young alumni were the people who made this successful. So those donors that we received, 60% of those were young alumni. Wow. And that's the population we want to engage. So that's a very huge success for us in that way. And that's why I believe these giving challenges will continue on, in one way or another, whether it's crowdfunding and smaller versions or a day of giving, but making it easy for young alumni and millennials to give back is a huge goal of ours and of many schools. And this is one way to do it.
Right. And then taking that analysis and utilizing it over the next year as to how we're going to solicit that group of individuals, because that's key and critical to our success as well.
Were you looking at anyone who didn't? One thing we talked about at the conference I was just at was folks who didn't actually complete the form. Did you do anything to retarget those folks? Was that part of the strategy at all?
No, I think that's hard in a 24-hour challenge. If it was longer, we could have done that, but we didn't do that.
Yeah, no, it's just all these ideas that come through, and you're like, oh, we should try that. We should try that. So as we move towards wrapping up our episode, again, our Twitter audience is very quiet today, but if anyone has questions, we can take those or anything to add via the hashtag HigherEdLive. And I guess I just conclude with, and we've had some great takeaways in this episode, but for both of you, your top piece of advice to schools who might be trying this for the first time, who are, thinking we too can break a record, we can, get to 6,000 when we want it to be at 4,000. What is it that, 2 weeks after you're still thinking about as like, all right, I'm really glad we did that, or I wish we had done this?
For me, I would say it's just the planning.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you're doing two opposing things. One is you're planning ahead of time, really for every possible scenario. You're thinking really thoughtfully about your goal and what you'll do throughout the day should that goal not be reached, and how you'll get to that goal.
Or should it be reached and surpassed?
Exactly. And then the other part is, like, on the day of, just like I said before, being nimble. So, we had a whole communications plan, but we were waiting to see how it was going to decide what emails would go out and what social media posts would go out. And I think those two things for me are huge takeaways. It's just the importance of planning ahead, but then also not being so rigid on the day of that you can't respond, in real time to what's happening, because you have only 24 hours. So you need to be able to respond.
I would say that every institution knows its own audience, and play to that strength. Your audience. What we did here on that 24-hour stretch of time would probably only work here at Holy Cross, because we did it for our audience and for our individuals that we know give back in strength and in force when we ask them to. And we did everything that we normally do with that particular group of individuals. We engaged our active volunteer base and got them really engaged and excited about this effort. The I Heart HC, as Carrie said, was a theme that was used, a logo that was kind of used in the past with us to great success. We know that individuals that leave this campus love this campus. So we're really playing to that theme and to our audience. So you have to know who you're talking to and know the audience and know your individuals on your campus that are giving back to be successful. And once you have that and you know that, you can plan anything successfully around it.
Well, that is a perfect way to wrap up this episode. I love it. Thank you, Greta. And I know we'll all be watching next year for what Holy Cross will pull out next, what next trick is in your bag of tricks for Giving Day. It's been great chatting with both of you ladies. And really, I think some schools think automatically, like, let's go with holiday. But I loved what you said, like, no, like look at your calendar, see what makes sense. Like it doesn't, Christmas giving might not work, Valentine's giving might not work. Pick what works best for you and knowing your audience. So I want to thank everyone who tuned in today. I want to thank Carrie and Greta from College of the Holy Cross for joining us. And thanks to M. Stoner for making these episodes possible. And we'll see y'all on the flip side. Thanks for joining.
Thanks,
Thank
Kim.
you.